All right, it's just about 3 o'clock, so if we can take our seats, and we'll start in just 1 second. Make sure everybody's ready. All right, my clock says 3:01, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to this Menifee special agenda. This is a workshop. It's workshop number 2 for our CIP. And so CIP stands for Capital Improvement Program, by the way. And so I'm going to call the meeting to order at 3:01. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Carwin?
Here.
Councilmember Leesmeyer?
Here.
Councilmember Sobek? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Dinas?
Here.
Mayor Zimmerman?
And I'm here. Thank you. Our next item is Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Susie Hunt, who is one of the board members of the Sun City Civic Association, to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with our workshop. I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Villa, to introduce his team who will lead us today.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. As you know, we held a workshop on April 6th, where we laid out the foundation of the capital improvement program. We didn't talk about funding levels at that time, but today we are prepared to present to you some of the proposed projects that are proposed to be funded this year with our along with our budget. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Nick Fiddler, our Public Works Director, that's going to overview that plan for you and the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and council members. Today we'll be going through workshop number 2 of the CIP, Capital Improvement Program. In summary, we'll walk through what we covered in workshop number 1, and then we'll be looking at proposed fiscal year 22-23 projects by list and type, and then we'll walk through the project details. So again, this is a kind of a schedule of where we're at and the targets that we need to meet to make sure that we approve the capital improvement program as part of next year's fiscal budget. We are now moving to April 20th, or we're at April 20th. So workshop number 1, input summary. Staff reorganized project priority based on the input we received from the council. And then we added the projects proposed by both the city council and staff. And now we're looking at providing available funding sources. So in summary, from fiscal year 21-22, we had completed 13 projects totaling roughly $9.5 million. We're in design of 35 projects estimated at $14 million, and then 7 projects that are under construction at just under $5 million. Just to be clear, the projects in design are well over the $14 million because we do have the Holland Road Bridge that's in design, and some of the larger projects that we're working on, the transportation projects, those are significant but multi-year projects. So we kind of focused on what was in the queue for fiscal year 21-22. And so moving into fiscal year 22-23 proposed projects. Again, this was taking the comments that we received at the workshop number 1, and we went through and provided the information based off of what budget is available. We also wanted to show what monies have been approved to date, so we can show overall requests as we're moving forward. The one, transportation is the first category. You look at the one new project was the Marietta Bridge over Salt Creek. And I apologize, I'm not sure why the text is turning out like it is on the screen. Hopefully your printouts are better. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there.
Hang on one sec, Nick. Councilmember Sobek?
Mayor, I have a question for staff. Nick, would you like us to ask questions as you go along like we did last time?
Yeah, that's fine, yes.
So at the end of your page,
Yeah,
before you turn?
Yeah, if you have a question for that specific page, that'd be great.
Okay, great, thank you. I will on this page.
Okay, I'll, when I get to that.
And before you get going, just for housekeeping, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's here. There will be an opportunity for you to speak. If you did come here to share your thoughts, you can give a speaker card to one of the staff members in the back. And also, so Mr. Fiddler and the team are going to go through this presentation, and then the council members will ask some questions. And then at that point, we'll take public comments, and then the council will discuss. So just to give you guys all kind of how the protocol is going to go. All right, Mr. Fiddler, please continue.
Thank you for the clarifications. If you could bring back up the presentation. Thank you. Like I mentioned, last workshop, the Holland Road overpass that's developer funded fair shares that we're adding additional money to. And then the Bradley Road over Salt Creek is adding money to that project. We also, as part of the Bradley Road Bridge over Salt Creek, we're also anticipating a $5 million grant that will be added sometime in the future. We have not received the grant yet, but we are working towards that with Caltrans and FHWA to secure the funding. The remainder of is just keep adding money to projects that are ongoing, multi-year projects. Moving into the traffic signals, we're looking at 2 projects that we're reviewing that was discussed at the last workshop, and both those are consistent with what was proposed at the last meeting. And then into the street improvements projects, those are also consistent with what was talked about. Did you want to ask your Councilmember Sobek, did you want to ask a question before I move to the next sheet?
Thank you, yes. Because I think, I do recognize some of our residents are from Sun City, and I know there's been a lot of talk in the Sun City core about the Bradley Road Bridge. And I just want to, I know that you've mentioned before okay, we've been allocated $5 million from Congressman Calvert from the federal government. Could that hold up the process because we have to go through NEPA studies, just so that the residents, since they're here, I just thought it'd be a good question to ask on their behalf.
Yes, and thank you for that question. Yes, unfortunately, and when you use federal funds, we do have to move from a CEQA into a NEPA, a National Environmental Protection Agency permit. Because we're utilizing federal funds, it does take some time to acquire that CEQA or NEPA document, so it will delay the project, but we are trying to work with some of our Congress political officers to come up with a streamlined process for the NEPA document, because there's a lot of federal funds that are being infused into not only our community but communities across the United States, and we're trying to work with the politicians to come up with some sort of streamlining process. California is one of 3 states that have their own environmental process through CEQA, which is a little bit more stringent than the NEPA process. So we're in hopes that they will come up with some sort of programming in order for this to be able to put these funds, these projects on the street faster. But it's very new. The funding source for this program is very new, and they're working through that right now. But we do have to start that NEPA process, and it could take upwards to 8 months to a year, depending on what level that we're required to do and how fast we can work through Caltrans. Everybody's doing their best to accelerate this, but we do have to follow federal regulations.
So would you say with the 5 million, I'm pretty sure it's fully funded?
Yes.
Okay, so we will have all the funds to complete the Bradley Road Bridge.
Once we receive that.
But we will have to wait for approval from federal.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fiddler, I got a couple more in the queue here. Mayor Pro Tem Dinas.
Yes, on the project list here, these are proposed for 22-23. So if you take what's approved funding to date column plus what you're requesting, would that then fully fund these projects?
Not all of them. A lot of these are multi-year projects that we continue to add funding to actually be able to fund it. So if you were to go into the capital improvement program budget adopted book, it shows what the ultimate funding's required for each one of those projects, and we're continuing to add money to it. For example, the Murrieta over Salt Creek, obviously that's much larger than a $1.8 million project. That's just money to start the environmental and design process. So yes, it's more of some of
more of a funding request than a project request. I just want to make sure that any of our residents watching online or listening here, that when they see this list, this is not everything's going to be happening next fiscal year, but we're putting money towards it.
Yeah, that's a great example, because some of the projects where we're asking for the traffic signals, that's just enough funding to start the design for those, because those are typically a multi-year projects, especially the 3rd Street and State Route 74. Those are multi-year, because we have to deal with Caltrans and we have to coordinate with them, and they'll be partners on that project with us.
Okay, I just want to make sure there's no expectations that we're going to see these things happen, but this is a multi-year plan. Because otherwise, you look at these and, someone could look at look at this, all we're going to do this fiscal year, when in fact is spread out over a number of fiscal years. So there's no undue expectations. Thank you.
It's a very good point, and there's even some projects today that we've been putting money towards for the last 5 years, and the narrative is, they promised us that 5 years ago. Well, we started putting money towards it, but it took until today to get there. So I have one more, Councilman Leesmeyer.
Thanks, Mayor. On that slide, if you have, it doesn't really matter, but on the slide for Holland Road, you have $35,192,225 approved to date, and in the CIP book, it's about $1 million less. So I'm just kind of curious where the discrepancy is there.
Okay, we can come back and check. Oh, okay, we added money at mid-year. Well, we'll verify and get back to you.
Yeah, I got a lot of those, and this is the book you guys gave us at the last meeting, so I just have a lot of those kind of questions.
Okay.
So I'll get with you afterwards and kind of go through what I'm seeing.
Okay. So moving into the PMP section, these are typically projects we're able to complete within a one-year program. These are our resurfacing and slurry projects. A lot of these will be completed within a one-year time frame. We did the Romoland Grid Neighborhood South. That one you see approved funding prior to that because that was at mid-year. We added some money for design, and then the rest of this will be added for construction to complete that project. So you can see the several new projects which were discussed last time, and then the Quell Valley Grid area street lighting. That's a pilot program where we're going to go through and add some solar powered street lights to that area. And then new fire station number 5. That's actually Quell Valley. I know I made some comments last time in regards to that, and I apologize if I confused anybody. It's not the new 5th fire station, it is fire station number 5 for Quell Valley. And then adding another $1 million for City Hall, Menifee City Hall. That was discussed as last time as well. Again, that's money to continue to put towards that project since it's a multi-year and a multi-million-dollar project. And then the Community Center Recreation Center. Again, that was developer deposits towards that project. The one new project in the Parks and Trails, fence and safety enhancements, which we discussed last time. But you can see on the right-hand side, we're now assigning dollar values to those projects, which we're working towards to complete those projects. Any questions on this slide before I move to the next? Nope. So for the proposed 22-23 projects, we're estimated at roughly $18.3 million, and 6 transportation projects totaling $10.6 million, and then 2 traffic signal projects at $304. And again, that's design only. That's why they're not as expensive. Typically, a traffic signal is somewhere in the $500,000 range per signal. 3 street improvement projects at totaling $500,000, and then 7 PMP. That's our bulk of our resurfacings and slurry seals at $4.3 million, and then the streetlight project for Quell Valley, the pilot program, for $100,000, and then monies towards our public facilities, the fire station, the City Hall, and the community center at almost 1.2 million or 2 million, and then 4 parks, trails, and recreation projects at 550,000. So we did, since funding was a little bit short this year, and we had a lot of projects that we wanted to complete, we were looking at reallocating some projects that we previously had funded, and these ones are for projects where we were hoping to make improvements to property that we would own in the future, but some of the we've been challenged with some of our properties and negotiations, and one of them was for the site over here where our PD department is. So we are leasing that site, and we did have a project for roughly $640,000. Since we did not want to put that additional money into a property we didn't own. We're down scoping that project to do some temporary improvements until a new PD facility can be constructed. So we're proposing to move $400,000 out of that bottom section, FS002 for police station upgrades and FS003 police station upgrades. And then for the top one, the fueling station, again, we're still in the process of identifying our site needs. We're going through a site assessment for both PD, the Maintenance Operations Center, and for City Hall. So we're going to reserve $250,000 in that, or $210,000 in that budget to start a design of the fueling station. And then once we identify the exact location and the footprint for our PD building, we will work towards funding the construction of it. So we'll work through the design, get the design all complete, and then when we ultimately determine the location of that facility, we'll refund the construction of it. And at the last workshop, we all agreed that the council chambers window upgrade wasn't beneficial, so we're reprogramming that to another project as well. Any questions in regards to that, Said?
Councilmember Sobek has a question.
Yeah, not so much, well, maybe a question and a comment. I remember Councilmember Leesmeyer mentioning, so talking about the fuel station, he mentioned that there might be funding through the natural gas and combining that there, and I just was wondering if staff has looked into alternative fuel with the fuel pump station?
So, great question. There are various grants for natural gas type vehicles and electric vehicles, and yes, we are researching various vehicles. There will be a push to move away from fossil fuel vehicles, especially for local agencies. I think we have until 2036, but obviously your PD and those will continue to run off of fossil fuels. Other vehicles like your pool vehicles will probably be converted to some other type of electric vehicle.
Right, so this fuel station, would it be for police, fires, all city cars as well? Would it? So a lot of the city cars are electric or
They're hybrid.
hybrids.
Yeah.
So there might be an opportunity to get grant funding for that type of thing and then include the fossil fuel as part of it, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're always looking for
Okay.
various grants for vehicle.
All right, I just
and for-
remember him
yeah.
mentioning that, and I just wanted to make sure that we are taking advantage of anything that might be out there, so.
Yeah, and we do utilize a lot of grants for our hybrids. There's a voucher that we typically get, or not a voucher, there's a certain amount of funding that we get annually for air quality type.
Okay. All right, I'm glad to see that you've looked at other projects and reallocated funds that aren't working out, so thank you.
One more, Councilman Leesmeyer.
In the facility side of things, I noticed in the book that we had the 230 going into the council chambers. Is that for just more audio, or is that specifically for the PEG channel? I guess my question is that money well spent, or is that specifically for the PEG channel?
I believe it's for the PEG channel. I don't see Ron.
Do we have that that cost already understood, or do we?
Can you ask your question again, Mr. Puccinelli?
Sorry, we're going through facilities and talking about moving money around. One of the things I noticed in the book was the 230 allocation for the PEG channel. Well, it's for council chambers. This year, there's a proposed expenditure for $230,000. Is that for just the PEG channel, or are we doing more miscellaneous upgrades? And can you kind of talk about what that funding's for?
Sure. To my immediate recollection, this is not exclusively for the PEG channel. I could get the actual breakdowns if you need that. I don't have that right in front of me. But some of it is for the PEG channel, and some of it is for just general maintenance, upkeep, some adjustments we need to do to make this room a little bit more serviceable.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thanks,
That's
Ron.
it.
Can you bring up the slides again? Thank you. Any other questions on this? Great, thank you. So moving into proposed projects by transportation, so we'll walk through each of the projects. Obviously, the Holland Road overpass, we are in design. That project is 100% designed. We are actually submitted the design to Caltrans for their review and anticipate going out to bid in the next month or so. We've submitted also all of our permitting to various regulatory agencies, and we're waiting for those permits. So we're very close on this project. You actually will start to see some activity around the Holland Road. We will be importing some materials to that project to reduce the amount of import necessary during construction. So when we have projects that have an excess amount of soil or materials, we will move it to that area to start building up for that project. The Bradley Road bridge over Salt Creek we discussed earlier. The Scott Road Bundy Canyon Road widening, again, continuing to work forward on that and put money towards that project. We have submitted several grant applications for that project as well. And we're actually working on another application as we speak. So we're trying to look for all federal and state funding pots available for that project. The Valley Boulevard widening and missing links, that project is in design. Again, it needs additional funding to continue its efforts on that project. And same thing with Mccall Boulevard widening, that project is in design as well. And we're moving toward funding to fully fund that project. Bailey Boulevard widening, the project is in design. The money that you'll see for that project is to add sewer to that area. We're going to be constructing a new road. We need to put the sewer in as well otherwise they'd have to dig the road up to put the sewer in. So we're proposing that project, that funding for the sewer improvements. Any questions on this slide?
Really quick on the Bailey Park deal. Are you proposing to put together a CFD or something like that where the city gets reimbursed for the cost of putting in that infrastructure?
We were actually talking about that as if there's a mechanism that we can do to recover the cost for the sewer.
And Councilmember Sobek.
Thank you, Mayor. On Holland Road overpass, since you mentioned it, Edison poles. Edison poles, I bring this up just often, just to stay on top of it, that if Edison could hold up the project, if they don't get those poles moved. And I keep watching, and they're not being moved.
Yeah, we're coordinating with Southern Cal Edison as part of the project. We do have some work to do as well. We have to realign a little stream so that they can do some relocations, because they'll actually work around. And Carlos has been having bi-weekly meetings, utility coordination meetings for that project. Not only Southern Cal Edison, but the water, EMWD's water facilities. We've been coordinating very closely with both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a combined effort, because we have to build up some of the embankment for both utilities to relocate to.
So will they be able to start construction of the bridge if the utility poles aren't moved?
Yeah, the bridge, they can start working on the bridge improvements, but it's best to get them out of the way first, because we don't want any delays, but there is opportunities to work around them in the meantime, but our goal is to have them relocated, as we're starting the project.
All right, and then one other, on the Mccall Boulevard widening, what section is that?
That's from Oakhurst to Menifee. So basically,
Okay, so it's going east. It's going over the east.
Yeah,
Okay.
the hospital driveway to Menifee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we kind of touched on to the Holland Road overpass. You can see it's $223,000, and when that's capital and projects, that's indicating that's a developer fair share funds. The Bradley Bridge over Salt Creek, a total of $5,700,000. You can see the various funding sources, but I would like to point out that $2 million of the funding is from the County Flood Control District. They're contributing funds towards that project. The Valley Boulevard widening and missing links is 1.7 from the RBBD, Menifee Valley RBBD, and then another $730,000 from the citywide DIF. Mccall Boulevard widening, roughly $500,000, and again, $8,000 of it is from developer fair shares. I know it seems minimal, but we want to capture every fund that we can, and then the rest is Measure A. The Bailey Park Boulevard widening, you look at $600,000 coming out of grants. That's part of the ARPA funds. It is an eligible use of ARPA funds because it is for sewer extensions and sewer projects, and the rest of the $59,000 again is capital projects, which would be developer funded. The Marietta Bridge over Salt Creek, we're looking at $1.8 million in the Menifee Valley RBBD. And that's the Roads Benefit Bridge Benefit District. And then moving into the traffic signals, we had 2 traffic signals. We have Getz Road, Vista Way. That was a council priority at the mid-year. We're continuing to, we did adjust the priority on, or not on that one, sorry. We did adjust the priority on the Highway 74 and 3rd Street traffic signal. And again, that one will be both of these will be multi-year. The Getz Road and Vista Way traffic signal is a multi-year because we're coordinating with Southern Cal Edison for their Rule 28 project. They have to relocate some of their poles so we can actually widen the roadway in order to construct the signal. And we did Menifee Road. Something we did add that wasn't discussed at the last meeting was a Menifee Road Fire Station number 76 entrance at the traffic signal at that entrance. That was something that came through CAL FIRE during their budget review. They requested that because it's getting harder and harder for them to exit that station. So adding the traffic signal at that location will help them with their ingress and egress during emergency situations. And then a little detail on the Getz Road Vista Way traffic signal. This is $122,000. Again, this is for design, and that's out of the DIF circulation, citywide circulation. You can kind of see the widening that needs to occur on Getz Road in order for us to achieve a traffic signal. And the widening is basically to allow for the left turn movements onto Vista Way. Menifee Road, Fire Station 76, the entrance is at that location. We're proposing $300,000 out of the quality of life measure, and then $181,000 out of the DIF for fire facilities. And the $300,000 is repurposing some of the funds from the PD's station improvements. Any questions before I move past the traffic signals?
Councilman Leesmeyer.
I did have one, and it's not really related to what you brought up there, but it sparked an idea in my mind, specifically to the request from fire on the signal at 76. Were there any other needs from fire specifically to the stations? I mean, I know we own the stations. We've done a lot of improvements in the past. Garage doors, air conditioning, all that sort of stuff in the buildings to maintain their life.
They've prioritized several requests. This is their number one priority. Obviously, there's limited funding, but yes, they have a priority list that will continue to move through improvements. Some of their larger improvements we're taking care of right now with this fiscal year. Obviously, Fire Station, Quail Valley Fire Station, and then also Fire Station 68. We're doing some remodels there. So yeah, there's a a priority list of projects that they would like to see over the next few years.
Is that something that we can see just so we understand what we're up against for the next few years?
I suppose we could provide, a list of the projects. Yeah.
Got one more, Councilmember Sobek.
Thank you, Mayor. So on this 76 traffic signal, is that a multi-year, or is that totally funded for this year? Because I know some set traffic signals have been 700 to 900,000.
We're trying to fully fund this one. It is not a full-blown traffic signal
Three-way.
since it's a three-way, and then plus it is an emergency signal only. So it doesn't require all the loops and advanced detection, some of the others, because it will mainly rest on green for north-south direction, and only turn red when their vehicles pull up to the signal.
I'm glad you said that, because knowing it's so close to Newport Road, I was wondering how that was going to work. So it will stay green and only turn red when they have calls?
Yeah, whenever they have to leave the station area, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So, street improvements, we have Normandy Road pedestrian improvement. This is adding funds to a project. We are nearing completion of design of that project. And then the ATP Romoland grid area, that was a kind of a federal funded project. The Bradley Road widening near Paloma High School. This is a project that's funded through bond premiums. We're doing a little bit of widening on the east side of Bradley Road there's new development called Meadow Run. It'll carry it to Corson, basically, so the kids have a place to walk on the shoulder and gain access to the school. And we're coordinating that efforts with this high school district. They have a proposed traffic signal at that location, because that's their main entry into their into their school. We did change the priority for the interchange beautification, so on Newport, as Councilmember Sobek had requested. And then, so this is Normandy Road improvements. We have 100,000 in Measure A, and then capital projects, again, that's developer funded portion. The ATP Romoland grid area, that was CDBG funds. The Bradley Road, which we discussed, that's CFD bond premiums. So any questions in regards to those projects? No?
I'm just glad to see Paloma Valley High School getting some attention, and thanks for that developer on doing that.
Yeah. So now here's where the bulk of our money went, PMP, Pavement Management Program. You can see the first one, we reclassified or reprioritized Casablanca Villas from a 1 to a 2. And I know Councilmember Dinas, you had mentioned the old Hillcrest 2, and it incorporates both those areas as part of it. And then again, we reprioritized Lake Ridge Estates from a 2 to a 1, and including that in the program. Marietta Road resurfacing, San Quentin to Salt Creek. That's a project that we're waiting for EMWD to complete their new pipeline, and we'll come in right behind them and resurface that. It does also include some medians along Marietta as well. And then what we discussed last council or workshop was the on-call AC resurfacing. That's to go in and handle miscellaneous areas where we have bad potholes or bad pavement sections that we can bring in and a contractor under an on-call basis and make those repairs. And then Willow Neighborhood, Menifee Lakes, we reprioritized that from a 4 to a 1 and included that resurfacing area. And then we have a whole group of slurry seals, Brigada Community Slurry Seal, Lake Ridge Slurry Seal, and then Southeast Communities resurfacing. You'll see Lake Ridge captured in two areas. The one is just one street segment requires resurfacing, and that will be bundled with the Willows neighborhood project because it's the same type of resurfacing, and the remainder of the streets will be slurry sealed because they're in a relatively good condition. Any questions before I move past this slide? And again, we'll talk to each detail on each one of the projects as well, where the funding sources are coming from. Seeing none. So the Roma Land Grid, you can see the area that's being proposed, and this is all $815,000 of Measure A funding. The Casablanca Villas, which incorporate some of the Hillcrest, or Hill Point area, $1 million, and that's some of its SB1 funds, and the balance is Measure A. The Murrieta Road resurfacing, the majority of that is SB1 funds, and then there's some minor capital projects, 1,500, very minimal. And then the Willows neighborhood, you can see what areas that includes, and that's SB1 and Measure A. So the on-call, just some various photos of damaged asphalt. We'll look at repairing major sections that our staff in-house can't repair. It's a little bit beyond their capacity, so we'll use an on-call contractor to make those repairs for areas that are larger than what we can do in-house. And that was money funds reallocated from the fueling station. This is the Brigada community slurry seal. There's 200,000. This again was a recommendation of reallocation of 200,000 from the fueling station.
Mr. Fiddler, on that one, Brigada, and then Willows, they're right next to each other. And I'm wondering, do you intend to put those projects together for economies of scale and see if we can save a little money?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're just separating the communities so they can be identified.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, there's a few of them. That's why they were all lumped together into one project. So.
Got it.
And then the Lake Ridge as well will be included with it.
Yeah.
Other than the one street that needs to be resurfaced will be added to the Willows. Well, I'm sorry, the Willows is a resurfacing. The slurries will all be done together.
Okay, slurries together.
Yeah.
And then I have Councilmember Sobek in the queue.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this picture in the Lake Ridge Community Slurry Seal. You mentioned one of the streets. Is it Shore Ridge Drive? Because there's different colors here. So Shore Ridge Drive, is that the one that's going to be resurfaced, and then the side streets and the cul-de-sacs are going to be slurried? But they're but it doesn't make sense, the colors, to me.
Yeah, if Carlos can come up and help describe which sections are being resurfaced and which ones will be slurried.
Because it looks like, looking at the picture, you've got a slurry of Pier Point and a cul-de-sac green, and then the rest are blue, so.
Yeah, trying to look at the picture a little bit better. I'm sorry, the colors don't come out very good here, but the one street that's kind of parallel to Menifee Road, kind of in the center of that community.
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
the
street that's going to be a resort.
Okay, it's the main one that goes
The
through.
main one, yeah. So that one's going to be receive AC resurfacing, and the rest of the community is going to be a slurry seal.
Rest will be slurry. Will the aesthetics be good on that? Doing one a slurry and one a resurfacing? How will they?
We are being guided by our payment management program and reports, and that's the recommendations for those streets.
So so when you do a resurfacing, it brings in, how much, an inch, 2
About
inch?
an inch and a half.
Inch and a
We're going to
half.
grind about an inch and a half. We're going to put back another inch and a half of new pavement.
So on the slurry, though, it's not.
No, it's just a
So-
slurry coat and slurry seal.
So just,
There will be a noticeable difference between the two pavements, the texture, but obviously the one street needs to be fully reconstructed.
I know, but I'm trying to understand, if I was living on, say, Covecrest Circle there, and I'm coming out onto Shore Ridge, am I going to hit a bump? Because it's
Oh,
going to
no.
go up. That's
No.
what I'm trying to
No.
understand.
Yeah, no, they do little header grinds, which they'll grind the pavement down for how much they're gonna add to it, and then they'll transition it out, and you won't be able to see a
Well,
different, yeah.
Okay. And we'll make sure that we have somebody out there checking.
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Good question. You're thinking. And then the southeast communities resurfacing, 300,000, 200 is from general, and 100 is from quality of life, and the 100 is part of the windows reallocation. I'm sorry, 200 is from the reallocation of the windows. Moving into the streetlights, again, this is for the Quell Valley. That's a pilot program. We changed the priority to a 1, and then we're going through it and adding streetlights at a lot of the intersections throughout that area where there's conflict points with turning movements.
Mr. Fiddler, on our workshop number 1, I had brought up adding some solar street lighting on Menifee Road, north of Scott Road, between Scott and Garbani. And I don't know if that ever made this list. It doesn't look like it. But maybe if we need full council support on that, we can give that to you now, or I can ask for it. Are you guys okay with? It sounds like we're unanimous on that. I don't know if that needs to have a special priority or not, but I'd like to have it added to the list. I know we've talked about looking in and investigating some solar options, and Councilman Leesmeyer mentioned that Edison has some existing poles there, and they've said that it would be all right for us to affix some of our own solar lights to those, and there is a nice line of wooden poles that run all along there, so I think it'd be kind of a low-hanging fruit and not real expensive and make a huge difference in the safety of that section of road.
Yeah, well, we can definitely look at that and add that to the program.
I think we mentioned it before, but I don't know if it ever got any traction.
For some reason, I think there was a development project or something that was coming through. I'll have to research that one again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, before we add something like that, we'd have to know the allocation amount, because would we lose allocation amount in another project?
Well, I'm not asking for money, I'm asking for it to be added to the
Just add it to,
I mean,
okay.
give it a priority
Okay.
level. I don't know what that is. But really, I don't think this is going to be much more expensive than the Quail Valley one, which is under $100,000, so.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be, it's roughly between 7,000 to 10,000 for pole. If we add in a street light pole and a solar fixture. Now, if we're going to put it on the Southern Cal Edison's poles, it's
More affordable.
it's more affordable, but you end up paying a monthly rate for it. So you do have a monthly rate.
So do we pay a monthly rate just to put our own solar and not tap into their electric line?
Okay, I'd have to see if they'll allow a solar fixture on their poles.
Well, let's add it to the list, and at least it gets on there this time, and then we can kind of investigate it a little more and see if we can't get it done. If we're successful in Quail Valley and realize, hey, this is a efficient way of lighting a community at not a real expensive cost, why not do it wherever we need it? And if Romaland is a place that needs it, and I think there's lots of places up there where they're very, very dark at night and unsafe, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the area that's the Quail Valley, again, 100,000 out of CSA 86. They do have funding for that area. And then our public facilities. the new fire station number 5. That's not to be confused with fire station number 5, but this is just adding it to, I'm sorry, no, this is the Quail Valley Station. Mixing you guys up again. This
Yeah.
is Quail Valley Fire Station, not the 5th station.
So again, and this was my recommendation to the city manager, it's a nomenclature thing,
Yep.
but it's something that's going to really
Yeah.
reduce confusion. Let's just call it Quail Valley Fire Station 5, and then when we're discussing a future fire station, let's call it Future North Area Fire Station. And
we
don't
had
put a 5 on there.
We had that discussion this morning,
Excellent.
and it just like,
All right, good.
Sorry, blanked out on that one. So yes, that is our Quail Valley Fire Station.
Thank you.
And then funding for the new Menifee City Hall, and then the community center at La Piedra. We did remove the council chambers windows as discussed, and then we reprioritized the fire station, new fire station in northern area of the
Boy, that
city.
sounds so
Northern
clear.
area. And then we reprioritized the fueling station. I'll get it straight, I
Sounds
promise.
great.
Maybe next year.
I have Councilman Leesmeyer in the queue.
Just a random question on the fueling station. So we went through a fueling station design build when we built Station 7, Fire Station 7. Is it a tremendous amount of rocket science to just do the same thing all over again? I mean, I think I saw you had 210 allocated for that design. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a.
So
real
the
big
fire
deal.
station, the fueling tanks for fire stations are 500 gallons. They're smaller tanks. They don't have dispensers like a fueling station would have. The fueling station that we're talking about is going to be very comparable to, you pull up to an Arco or one of these other fueling stations. There's dispensers with meters on them that, and they also track which vehicles are getting fueled. So there's a basically a reader device. Once the nozzle hooks up with the vehicle, it lets staff know how much fuel is going into that vehicle.
So
So it-
it's Station 5, there's no regulation on that? So Chief
No,
Wilson
because
can pull his truck up and fill up anytime?
No, it's a little bit more controlled because it's only a fire truck that's filling up there. There's no other type of vehicles that are filling there. So yes, there's a lot more controls at this station because staff from Public Works, staff from Community Services, staff from Community Development, Fire, PD, they're all going to be using this station to fill the vehicles with. So we need to be able to regulate and understand which vehicles, how much they're utilizing for billing purposes, for audits, for everything. And again, you're talking about a 500-gallon tank versus a 10 to 15,000 gallon tank. So the regulations change dramatically. You have to have secondary containments, canopies over the fueling stations for the dispensers. So there's a little bit more details involved.
All right, thank you.
So, Mr. Fiddler, and council members, this is really going to come to you. If you'd put up that presentation, the second one from the bottom, the future Northerly area fire station. Last CIP workshop, it was requested that we move that up in priority, and the council agreed to move it from a 4 to a 2. And I'd just like to ask council members if we'd be willing to consider just going ahead and moving that to a priority 1 tonight, and make it clear that this is a priority for us, and it's something we want our team to do our best to bring that as soon as possible, because it is absolutely needed with the amount of calls at Fire Station 7 in the Northerly area, and so this would really benefit that. And council members, how do you feel about that?
My question would be, what effect would that have? I mean, I obviously, we have so many priority 1 projects. If we're looking at substituting one of the list to move that up, I mean, obviously, fire stations are a huge benefit to the community for safety and all those kinds of things, but we could just take everything and make it priority one, and wouldn't get to it any faster. So is there a way that we can actually make that one make a difference as opposed to just being a number on the list? Or should we wait until some of these are done and then just naturally move it up?
Okay, so.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so if I can answer that. First of all, I don't want to change anything else. I'm just simply saying, let's make that 2 a 1. Will it have an effect? I don't know. But it would be at least sending the message that we recognize that it is a priority and importance for us to move this forward as soon as possible. I don't know that changing a 2 to a 1 on a chart means that the finish line gets moved sooner or not. That's a great question, and it remains a question.
Yeah, so the question would be, does that slow the progress of any other current number ones by adding more ones to the list because they're trying to do them all at the same time, or does it have no effect at all? I don't know how you prioritize within the one list.
I guess that's a question for staff.
Well, and we moved it, we had a big, long discussion on it last time. We moved it from a 4 to a 2. I mean, next year, it will probably be moved to a 1. We probably won't be able to get to it before then anyway.
So-
It looks like staff has budgeted out these things. And so I'm just kind of wondering where that's coming from.
Well, that's coming from a recommendation and a suggestion from the public, and what I have heard is a request to show our commitment that public safety is our top priority, and by moving it to a 1, we are saying that as a council. Now, whether that actually financially is able to get legs and traction and move the finish line forward, it remains a question.
But if you made a promise to public without the council's discussion,
That's why we're here now.
We're having the
So-
discussion tonight, and I've never made any promise to
Okay,
anybody.
all right, I just wanna make sure,
It's been a
but-
suggestion that's been brought, and I think we're going to hear from a few people this evening that have the same thing, so.
well, and that's fine, and I'm glad we have an active community who wants to make their voice heard. That's really great, and that's why we're here. But we can't, well, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just saying that we moved it from a 4 to a 2. That shows the community that it is important to us. And I don't think moving it, I think it's automatically going to be moved to a 1 next year, and we'll get through the other projects. I wouldn't want to hold up any, as staff has analyzed this, and as they're trying to get these things done on council recommendation, and then we throw a wrench in at the last second, will that hurt any of the other projects?
So that's a great question for staff as well. And then Councilman Carwin's in the queue as well.
I think a large part of the feedback that I'm hearing is more based on personnel than facilities. So, and we had talked to the chief at the last meeting about how we don't need him to wait until the truck arrives to hire more, or to begin the recruiting process for more personnel. And I don't know necessarily that building a new Northerly fire station would solve the personnel issues that we're currently having. They seem to be separate issues, and I don't know if that personnel and equipment issue is part and parcel with this. Obviously, I'm in favor, not obviously, but I'm saying that I'm in favor of starting the recruitment process, bringing the extra personnel in, and getting that truck up and running as quickly as possible. And it seems to me that the facility, the Sun City facility, has the ability to absorb that within itself. So I don't know how reprioritizing fire station from a 2 to a 1 solves the personnel issue, or if we can do it independently.
That's right, and that's not an issue that's really in our control, but again, that's why we're having the discussion tonight.
Because it could be built today, and we wouldn't have any people to put in it.
That could very well be true. Councilman Leesmeyer.
I'd like to hear from the city manager on this,
Yeah, me too.
because I think you and I were discussing last week, actually, that Chief Olson was maybe considering putting the new rescue squad vehicle at 7 as well, and that you'd be doubled up on rescue squad vehicles at 7.
So I'm going to speak to the issue generally, based on the reports that we give the council every month. If you look at those reports, we find that the majority of the calls for Station 7 and even 76 are medical in nature. the fire, the typical fire department truck doesn't go out as much as the medic truck. So, so adding another fire station to the north part of the city wouldn't really deal too much about the medical issue, the medical response times. We anticipate that, you know, over the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, we will have more development up in that area, which will further require that we build a fire station so that we can cut down on response times. But we do have a plan that will be implemented here starting next fiscal year. And we've already made commitments to purchase a medic truck, a second medic truck, that would be mitigating some of the effects of the medical calls that we have for Station 7. So when we do bring the budget back for your consideration, we intend to propose, and I think for the most part at the last council meeting workshop, you did agree to allow us to move faster with the funding to be able to hire the medic personnel and the firefighters to be able to run the second paramedic truck. The chief and I are talking about what is the best way to deal with the volume issue of calls. Suggestions have been made that perhaps we could add the medic truck to Station 7 and have 2 medic trucks at Station 7, because that's where we seem to have the highest density of calls for medic attention. So we haven't talked further about that. So right now, we're trying to focus more on how are we going to add another medic truck and the personnel with the challenges that the county as a whole and the region as a whole is having. But we do have a plan to deal with the medic volume of calls. And the plan is to add a second medic truck to our city. Does that kind of answer?
Mr. Villa, would you answer one of the questions that was asked regarding if we were to do as suggested by the public, change this to a priority 1, would it have a negative effect on other things on the list or cause some kind of a problem?
I think not necessarily a negative effect. I think it would impact the way we look at the list of projects that are still priority 1 that do not have funding. We will need a 5th fire station or a fire station in the north. I don't think we need it now because it would be strictly for fire prevention purposes. We do need a second medic truck, and we are intending to add that. So to add to the question is would it impact, moving it to a 1 will cause us to reevaluate the priority and the funding for future years. But today, as we said today, we don't have the funding in place, nor a location to put that future North Fire Station.
So a question I have, are you finished? A question I have, we ordered the truck last year in last fiscal year's budget, correct? And it's being built now?
True.
Okay, so now this budget cycle, looking into the new fiscal year, which starts July 1st, we're looking at funding for the personnel that will be on there. Do you have an idea what that funding's, I mean, we're kind of ahead talking about this, and it's really not what we're talking about here, but just maybe because there are some concerned citizens here, do you have an idea what an increase of our city budget that would be for those personnel? Do you have an idea?
I'm gonna ask the chief to see if you have that answer, or Rochelle, but I think it's probably
Even
between
estimated.
$600 to $1 million.
600 to $1 million will be adding to
Personnel.
next year's budget. Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions, council members? All right, we may come back and revisit this at the end after we've taken public comments, but Mr. Fiddler, if you'd continue with your report, sir.
Sorry. That completes their public facilities. If there's any other questions, I'll move into the parks and trails. Oh, sorry, I do have to walk through the funding for each one of them. So for the Quail Valley Fire Station, we are looking at adding $700,000 from the DIF fire facilities. That is primarily for furniture and for the construction management for that facility. The community center, recreation center, we're proposing $263,000, and that again is out of the DIF citywide for public use and facilities. So $263,000. The new Menifee City Hall, we're proposing $1 million out of the citywide facility equipment. And now moving into the parks and trails and recreation. Got a little ahead of myself, sorry.
Sorry, I did have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
On the community center, are we getting ahead of ourselves on that at all? Do we have that property yet?
I will direct that question to Mr. Nix. He can help answer that.
I know the county was looking at giving that to us, hopefully.
Good afternoon, City Council. Yes, I actually had a meeting with County Real Estate last month, so we're working on a transfer agreement for that. So I'm working with Craig Olson from the county. It's going to take probably about 3 to 4 months for the agreement to be worked out. There's an easement on the site for Diamond Brothers. They have a well on there, so they're trying to work through some of the logistics of that. But they've told us that they're still planning on moving forward with the transfer.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
And Mr. Nix, was that on the county supervisor's agenda, and has that been approved by them?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, they're going to, the first step is for them to send over a draft of that transfer agreement. We send it over to Mr. Melching for review. Then it would go to the City Council first for approval, then agendize with the Board of Supervisors.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, moving into the parks, trails, and recreation. So first project is Evans Park Design and Construction. This is again a multi-year project. The pump track and some of the parking lot and restroom improvements are going to be constructed this year, but this will continue the remainder of that park. Parking lot resurfacing and trash enclosures. This is for E.L. Peterson Park. The park amenities enhancements, that would be some workout equipment we can show in the future. And then the fence and safety enhancements project. And then we changed the priority for the park and land acquisition from a 4 to a 3. So the Evans Park design and construction, we're proposing $200,000 out of the citywide DIF program for park improvements. Again, this is a multi-year. This is continuing funding for that design and construction. The park amenities enhancements include some various workout equipment at various sites. $75,000 out of the Audie Murphy Ranch CFD. And then parking lot resurfacing. Again, this is for E.L. Peterson Park. We have $200,000 out of the local park, Quimby. And then fence and safety enhancements at various locations. This installs safety fencing around playgrounds and outdoor field sports, fields. $75,000 out of the citywide parks CFD. That completes my presentation. If you have any questions in regards to specific projects, we'd have staff here available to help answer.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fiddler, and thank you for letting us ask questions throughout. There may not be as many here at the end since we've been asking throughout. Council members, do we have anything else that's come to mind? Councilman Leesmeyer.
Sorry, go ahead. You sure?
With regard to the sports court resurfacing, which sports courts are in the queue for resurfacing?
That's Mr. Nix to follow up on that question.
We actually don't have sports court resurfacing programmed. It's outdoor amenities like exercise equipment. Well, sports court resurfacing was a project that we did this fiscal year. We redid the basketball courts at Spirit Park.
So it's on the 5-year CIP as a level 2 sports court resurfacing?
Yes.
But there's nothing to be resurfaced?
No, we're not doing resurfacing this year. We keep it on the CIP because sports courts have to be resurfaced every 5 to 7 years.
All right, thank you.
All right, and Councilman Leesmeyer.
Yeah. CSO 21 EL Peterson, the park resurfacing. In the CIP book, it was listed at 100,000. Now you have it at 200,000.
I could take that one. We upped the amount based on the bids that came out for the Lazy Creek parking lot. That one was about a little over 200,000, including the trash enclosure. And the parking lot's a little bit bigger, so that's why we increased the amount.
Okay.
So if you look at the slide, if I can get the slides back, let me back up. You will see that there was originally $100,000 budgeted previously. We're adding 200,000 to resurface that, and as Mr. Nix had indicated, we recently just did the Lazy Creek parking lot, which also added the trash enclosure, and it was roughly 250.
So, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it feels like these numbers are a lot higher than what we're seeing in the Menifee Lakes neighborhood for some of the resurfacing projects.
The Menifee Lakes are slurry seals.
Okay.
So those are a lot less application.
Okay.
And these are complete reconstructs. The road, the parking lots are beyond repair for just a resurfacing or a slurry seal.
Okay, so you're taking everything out and completely repaving?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Is that it, council members, for questions? All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and open up for public comments. I think that there has been some speaker slips. So Mariana, if you would be so kind as to call their names for us. And folks, you'll have 3 minutes, and you'll come right over to the podium. Someone over there might be able to help adjust it up and down for you.
Yes, our first speaker of the evening is Norma Zermeno.
Right. Welcome, Ms. Zermeno.
Hi there. Good to see everyone again. Norma Zermeno, General Manager for Sun City Civic. I appreciate you guys increasing it to a 2. However, one of the questions that keeps being asked is why not increase it to a 1? I understand that it might affect some of the funding. I understand that you need land. Why not work with the county in trying to get the land so that you could try to get it done? Maybe it doesn't affect your budget as much. The other thing is why not expand Station 7 into the land that you already have? Add a second unit, maybe add a third unit. I was told by several people that that particular station happens to be the busiest in Riverside County. Why not expand it? If you're not going to add another station anytime soon, expand that one. There's a lot of people here from Sun City that are going to probably express the same thing because we don't want something to happen to one of them there that doesn't have the help. So maybe adding the second medic station there is great. Maybe add a third one if you expand it into the land that you already have. And that's it. I just thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We appreciate your perspective. Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Brian Hawley, who will be followed by Maria Pileggi.
Welcome, Mr. Hawley.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak last time. I appreciate you moving it from a 4 to a 2, saying that the priorities are needed. Again, I'll just go over very quickly. What I talked about before is the price of everything is going up, land included. Norma has a very good point to use the King's property. I'll change it real quick to the Menifee city property. Is to expand number 7. It wouldn't take too much. Armando, you're a numbers guy. You know how to do things good. We do need an extra truck. You're absolutely right. And this is all on CAL FIRE and Riverside County paramedics. Moving it from a 4 to a 1 and using other funds, I think everyone here will agree that it is a high priority on health. Last time I spoke very quickly about people having to choose between food, medication, and whatever else in life. And it's just getting worse because the stomach overrides popping pills, so we get more medical. Armando is spot on in that, and so is Norma, is that 7 is the busiest one in the county, and that's just because there's probably 50,000 old codgers that are on our side of the freeway, and we require a lot more attention. I know I do. And something else that I'd just like to add to you about priorities on what we're doing is that a couple of weeks ago, just after that meeting, I had a call from someone that she couldn't afford things. She couldn't even afford to have an obituary put in the Press Enterprise because it was so expensive. So she had to prioritize that, and that's after 52 years of marriage, she couldn't afford it. Thank goodness I was able to find someone that would upfront the money, or actually contribute the money, so that she could get a obituary for her husband. But those are the kind of things now that we're prioritizing. And along with that comes more medical response. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawley. All right, Ms. Pileggi's up next.
Maria Pileggi, followed by Susie Hunt.
If you'd be so kind as to state your name so we have it correct.
Yes, it's Maria Pileggi.
Thank you.
And I moved up here from Canyon Lake a year ago. And I want to emphasize here how wonderful this community is. I would not have changed it for the world. I spent 38 years in Canyon Lake, and like I said, 1 year later, I'm here, and I love it. And thank you so much for all of you guys' services that you do to this community. I had on August the 6th an emergency. I went down to a estate sale, and it had a hidden drain dish on the driveway that I stepped on it, and I fell down, injuring, fracturing my arm and my leg. And it was between 108 and 110 degrees. And I spent that time on the driveway waiting for the paramedics to arrive, the fire department, and I spent there half an hour waiting. And some other people said that it was 45 minutes. I don't know. But to me, it was half an hour. And the only thing I can say is that after listening to everything that's going on, I really appreciate it. You guys to reconsider it, to bring that to one level. Because when emergency happens, nobody knows how emergency is until you go through it. So I appreciate all you guys, concerns and you guys' decision on this matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pileggi. All right, and Susie, you're up.
Susie Hunt, followed by June Conant.
Yes, I'm Susie Hunt. I'm also in the Sun City Civic Association Corps, and I understand moving it to priority 1 for a whole fire station may hit some other things, but like Ms. Zermeno said, expanding 7, you've got the land there. I know you say you have another truck, hopefully training the paramedics already. We need something there. Couple live beside me, no longer there. They're in a nursing home. But I know when they've fallen, and I'm like a mile and a half from that station, it would take them 15, 20 minutes to get there. And sometimes she had hit her head, which luckily it was not that serious. But this can't continue happening. This delay in paramedics being able to get to seniors in this community. Expand 7, you've got the property there. Get rid of that dirt pile that was put there supposedly not there, move it and build something there. If we don't need another fire truck yet, fine, but we need more medical there. And kind of another note, I saw on there that resurfacing from Potomac to El Rancho, I'm assuming that's why the painting and restriping of Bradley from Mccall to Salt Creek hasn't happened. That needs to be done. I just had cataract surgery. I hated driving at night, but even with my eyes being able to drive at night, the lines on Bradley from Salt Creek to Mccall, you can't see them. And you got a bunch of seniors living there, and now you're wanting them to drive on streets where they can't see the lines. That is not healthy either or safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. And Ms. Conant, I think you're up next.
June Conant, followed by Debbie Gable.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. And I just like to keep people, remind people that minutes matter. Before I had to come back to California for medical reasons, I was on the Civil Defense CERT team for the Big Island of Hawaii. Our subdivision was about 17 miles south of Hilo, and we were hit by Hurricane Iselle. Our team was on alert that night, and of course, first thing in the morning, we had 2 medical emergencies. We had streets that were dead ends, and we had lots of trees. And unfortunately, a lot of the trees came down. And we had one gentleman that we felt was having some kind of a heart situation at the end of the road. We had our road crew out there from our end cutting the trees. Fortunately, there were neighbors on the other end, because where we lived, everybody had a saw. People on the other end cutting a path so we could get him out to the road to get to the ambulance. And we worked for about 20 minutes or so to get him through the trees. And fortunately, the ambulance was waiting for him, and they said 5 more minutes, and he would have been gone. So it's really, really crucial. Having worked in that capacity, it is so crucial that things get to people in time as soon as possible. And I am all for trying to look into how we can do it with expanding on the lot that you people have. And I thank you very much. I do have a matter. I did bring this up to the secretary when I came for the budget thing, and it was announced that on April 26th, next week, there's going to be another one for the D&D measure. And it says Wednesday, April 26th. The 26th is Tuesday. So I don't know whether to come Wednesday or Tuesday. So I'd appreciate knowing that before I leave tonight. Thank you.
We'll make sure we get that information to you, Ms. Conant. I believe that's our Measure DD committee meeting, so yeah, thank you.
Debbie Gable, followed by Al Bianco.
Welcome, Ms. Gable.
Hi, I'm Debbie Gable, and I seriously don't need a microphone. Okay, the emergency services, that's a big deal. We're seniors. I'm going to be celebrating my 70th in September, and it's like, I really want to have an ambulance or a paramedic get there if I need it. I have seen them coming to my neighbor across the street many times, people down the road many times, and sometimes they have to wait for a very long time before that happens. I don't think that we should have to wait for a long, long time. However, I do understand other people are calling too. And so they're going to other houses. But having one in a senior area is like kind of asinine to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I understand we have priorities. I understand we have different things that the city has to do. But having a park instead of a paramedic, where is the priority there? Where is the common sense here? I mean, because it's not just seniors anymore over in the Sun City area. We've got families surrounding us now, kids, and there's only one fire station with a paramedic close nearby. We also don't see any ambulances sitting around going, ready to go to a call anymore. What happened to them? Do we contract with more than one ambulance service? Because they're kind of like unseen in Sun City anymore. The dirt pile, Mr. Zimmerman knows this is a pet peeve of mine. As soon as it hit King's Inn property, or which now is Menifee's property, I immediately said, hey, Bill, what are we going to do about this? They just dumped it. We're a dumping ground now in Sun City, and I didn't really appreciate it because that's where I live. And he said, it'll be there a couple of days and they're going to move it. And it was a couple of weeks. Now, how long has it been? Are we charging them to have their dirt pile, gravel pile there? We should be charging them at least $50,000 a month, and then they'll move it. You know, come on, you guys. I really appreciate the work that you do. Common sense would be good, because it's getting to look like there's deals going on to allow these things to happen in Sun City, and we don't want that. We want it to be straightforward. We want bids to be taken for all the work projects, which, Nick, I assume is being done, that you get at least 3 bids from different contractors for every project, right?
Correct.
Okay, so,
Well,
and
we bid it per the contract code. We don't always receive 3 bids, but we do advertise publicly through the required contract code.
because it seems to me like the prices have gone really sky high too. Of course, we all know that at the grocery store, that the prices have gone sky high. But again, putting money into certain things, we need to decide what is more important to our citizens now, at this particular time in our lives when a recession may be happening, maybe not, and what is important for us in Sun City, Menifee area is to have emergency services. And I think I'm going to end on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gable. Any other speakers?
Al Bianco, followed by Tanya Trabezide.
Welcome,
My
Mr.
name's
Bianco.
Al Bianco. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I've lived in Menifee since 2009. In 2016, I moved to Sun City, so I've been in this community quite a while, and I appreciate everything you do. I know that every one of us, we live in Sun City, but we use all of the stores and restaurants and so forth. So we're actually paying taxes for the things that are available to us. We appreciate all of that. I also appreciate all the things that you're doing, including the some of the road resurfacing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But Bob, I don't agree with you on the fact that we need to make a fire station priority, and you've had some ideas here brought up already. I do agree with you. The first priority should be to get that second emergency vehicle set up and make it a priority. And I think I agree with some of the other comments that have been made. We don't seem to make emergency services a priority in Menifee. Well, maybe in Menifee, but not so much in Sun City. And I feel like sometimes I feel neglected living in Sun City. When I lived in Menifee, I didn't feel neglected, but now that I live in Sun City, I see that the roads aren't being paved. I've only seen Pebble Beach be resurfaced, Murrieta, which is a major road, and Mccall. And that's all. I ride my bike on Sun City streets, and I can tell you, I can ride on streets that there are a lot of gaps, and they're not small gaps, they're about that big, and they need resurfacing. That's my second point. But anyway, I hope you do change your mind and make it #1 priority for a new fire station and also emergency vehicle. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Tanya Trabezide, followed by Gilmar Torrealba.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about a different project, but still on the theme of safety. I'm here to talk about the Bradley Road and Newport Road intersection improvements. According to the Capital Improvement Program under Street Improvements, this project is currently classified as a Priority 3, and I ask that you consider making it a Priority 1. I also ask that you consider improving Bradley Road so that it's built out according to the general plan. Doing so would alleviate the site distance analysis requirements that are currently not met on a driveway during peak periods. I've already sent an email out to the members of the council, and rather than reading what I already sent, I would just like to summarize. That the city of Menifee is growing at a record pace. Bradley is one of the busiest intersections on Newport and will increasingly grow. So for the health and safety of your residents, seeing that safety is a top priority for the city, I ask that you consider making the intersection improvements of Newport and Bradley, along with improving Bradley Road, to a Priority 1. It seems this improvement to be a higher priority than an interchange beautification project that was just elevated from a priority 4 to a priority 2. Thank you for your time, and I hope you take this into consideration.
Thank you.
Gilmar Torrealba, followed by Albia Miller.
Sir, if you'd restate your name again, please.
Yes, Gilmar Torrealba.
Thank you.
I've been here in the Sun City, Menifee area since 1988, 34 years. And I've been seeing this town, the city grow immensely. When I first got here, Newport was only two lanes with stop signs everywhere. They were bragging at that time that we had one traffic light in the whole city. And now you see what we got now. My concern is around the Marietta Road construction area by the water company. They've been tearing that road up left and right, opening up holes and redoing everything. The one concern that I can see, and I almost got hit the other day, but it's the lines on the road. You can't see a lot of them. When they tear open the road, they don't bother repainting the lines or even putting a temporary line. It'd be better if they can go in there and put some on the main part of the road so you can see where you got to turn left or enter wherever. And from Newport Road all the way down towards the street right Peterson Park, you can't see the lines. They're really bad. I mean, you can put a temporary tape line down so that the cars won't be hitting. You know, they got the poles, the orange cone things around, but you can't see the lines in certain areas, and it's very dangerous. And I guess the resurfacing thing is going to be going for a while. So in the meanwhile, temporarily wise, maybe we could get that situation, you know, figured out and put some lines down, even, like I said, even if they're temporary. Now I have another concern. I live on Lazy Creek Road, which is a street north of Newport. It's a main entrance into that track right there. Well, that street, and it's been like that since I moved here, people go down that street like they're driving on a freeway. I mean, they're just hauling butt down that street at all times of the day and night. And at one time when we first moved there was 17 little kids that lived on that street. And the cars would just zoom right. We had one boy got hit, and a helicopter actually landed on Lazy Creek to pick him up to airlift him because he had gotten hit on the street. Now, we don't have as many kids now, but there are still some running around. And just getting out of the driveway, you got to be careful because they come hauling down the street, and it's all different vehicles, from motorcycles to big trucks. They're all doing it. And so my suggestion would be, there is a pole in front of my house, the light pole that you could put a sign up there, you know, speed limit. But the speed limit's supposed to be only 20 or 25, you know, at that time, you know. So it's the people still don't listen, or they don't watch it. So we need to get something done in that. We've had the Highway Patrol actually sit on that and give tickets in the past. But we need more, you know, observation on that. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Torrealba. All right, next up is Ms. Miller. Are you ready?
Never would I be ready at the fairy tale that this city puts forward. We're going to build some more houses. They're going to be on cul-de-sacs and patios, and they're going to be just beautiful. They're going to be 5 per acre. That's called I don't want to say the word. We don't need any more buildings, but this road improvement, it can be rough on the Bradley Street. And you didn't get the money because that developer wouldn't pay it. Now you've come back to attempt to improve Newport Bradley and pay for it like the developer wanted, so that then they can come back, because you haven't even taken the sign down that says coming a shopping center. So this is CIP, and That's a maintenance, I'm for maintenance. Maintain what we have. Don't bring in any more to add extreme confusion and enough employees that they don't even know one another. How long has that gone on? So, the improvements on Encanto and Mccall, well, that road did get a lot better once everything moved out, but you're going to fill that back up. So everyone needs to stay for the city council meeting and speak against 1,000 homes that are coming in through the Legato project. And believe me, it's not attractive. It's a horseshoe with neighborhoods facing in a rectangle on top of endangered animal nest. More violation of the Endangered Animal Species Act. And on Hahn, the traffic is so fast, if you step out there, you're going to be a statistic. And Mr. Leisemeyer, really, you attacked me in the hallway last time because I didn't take the bus. Well, that's admirable. That's an Earth Day thing. I mean, if you want to do everybody else, go ahead. Because my car is broken and I have been walking unbelievably and it has done great things for my circulation. It is healthful. So that was an Earth action. And I just think that any improvement at this corner you're talking about is for the development of more traffic that will be unbelievable. So, those who loved Old Sun City, there's just not as many of us as there were. You could even stand up now and join me. We loved Sun City. We could go through here. It was a quality of life experience. Now, you have a committee called Quality of Life. Why don't they speak at every city council meeting? Where
Ms. Miller,
are they?
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Who's a member of the Quality of Life council here?
All right, Ms. Miller, thank
Anybody?
you. We're going to move to our next speaker now, so we appreciate you coming.
It's all a fire hazard, as I see them sitting back there.
Madam Clerk, do we have another speaker? All right, so we're going to go ahead and close. If there's anyone else, we're going to move on now. Council members, we'll open it up for discussion among ourselves.
Use your brain.
Anyone like to start off with any of the items? All right, Councilman Carwin's in the queue.
So we've had a lot of discussion about the fire station, and I want to understand how the two budget issues work, because we've heard from the public the opportunity to where the option to expand the current fire station. I don't really see how building another fire station solves the personnel issues at the current fire station, and I don't know if that's part of the CIP discussion or if that's a personnel budget discussion. How do we get more personnel and emergency personnel into the existing fire station, even if we don't ever build another fire station? That's not really the issue. It's how many service workers we have at the current facilities. So is that a separate budget discussion, or is that part of this? How do they work together?
Let me give you a minute to process. I think we are trying to mix apples and oranges when it comes to the real problem. I think the real problem is, and what I hear from the residents, is the response times and the medical attention, not necessarily a fire station. Now, you got to remember that in 2016, I want to say 2016, when quality of life, at that time we call it Measure DD, was passed, that allowed us to have funding to have a paramedic unit at Station 7. That's the only one we've had since 2016. We started to see in tracking the amount of activity there, and we realized that it's really busy, one of the busiest in the county. That's when we started to realize 2 years ago that we may need a second unit to be able to deal with the volume of calls. That's when we started to talk to the council about budgeting an additional truck and also the personnel. So we thought we had a little more time. Obviously, things have gotten faster grown faster than we thought they were going to be. But we're almost there. I think I'm asking the council for a little more patience, because when we implement the second paramedic truck with the staffing, it will alleviate some of the volume concerns on Station 7, and it will inevitably have a lot to do with response times. I don't know that we can say that we need a third one now, because we haven't even implemented the second one yet. The idea of introducing a fifth fire station grew out of the realization that we're growing, and we're going to see a tremendous amount of growth in the north end in the next 5 to 10 years. So we wanted to make sure that the CIP reflected the idea of putting a fifth fire station in the north end of town. That's why it was a Category 4, because it wasn't needed now. It will be needed in the future. But I think that the real issue here is the concerns the community have over the response time, and the issue of adding more or increasing the level of service in the medic response time.
Right, so just to clarify, if we were to make this proposed fire station a Category 1 and make it the top #1 priority, and it becomes the next project built, that doesn't solve the medical personnel issues, because what I'm hearing is that station would be dedicated mainly to fire prevention and not medical personnel. So whatever response time issues we're having with medical personnel in Sun City, even if we made this the next thing that the city builds and it's built next week, doesn't sound like that resolves that issue.
I think you're correct, based on the comments that I've heard today from the public. It's not going to alleviate their concerns. One of the things that I'd like to do is allow us to move forward with the implementation and of the second medic truck and the staffing levels. And then I know that Chief Olson is working on a strategic plan to be able to assess the needs of our community. And it's very possible that the plan yields that we may need a third medic truck here sometime in the next 2 to 3 years.
And I don't want to get bogged down in personnel budget discussions, but from a facilities discussion, do we need to expand the facility at Fire Station 7 in order to accommodate more personnel, or can we bring in more personnel without it? Like, is that something that is the size of the facility limiting the personnel there, or can we host more personnel in another truck without even expanding it?
I'm going to ask our Chief Olson to answer that question. I think there is capacity, but we may need to do some
Because that question would be, can we re-allot the fire station funds and just expand out that station? That would be but if it's not necessary, then so be it.
Hello, Council. So both are options. It'll be crowded. We can fit the third unit in there, as we've been discussing, kind of phasing it in. We know we need that resource now. So if we had the personnel on the truck in front of us today, we could put it at that fire station. We would just have to staff them up, and they would have to, because it's only 2 bays, there would be one behind the other, so they couldn't independently go out, or they'd have to face out other directions, but it would work. We've also gone through, both Nick Fiddler and myself, and looked at the fire station and what are our options for expanding it in the long term. So both are options that we can.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that the size of the actual construction of the facility is not limiting our ability to add an additional crew?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Sobek.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and sharing. As you've been hearing a little bit now from staff, you know that public safety is a priority. For one thing, we created our own police department, okay? So your public safety is our #1 concern. And we ordered this medic patrol. We started talking about it, 2-3 years ago, we started talking about, we budgeted it and we purchased it. It takes a year to build. And I know that you're here because you're friends with Norma, and she reached out to you, so thank you for that, Norma. But we want you to know it is a priority. We're looking forward to that staffing. I agree with the city manager. that we need to be a little patient. We need to see what happens when that medic patrol comes on, and I'm grateful for our chief that he's looking at instead of placing it, because we've talked about it was going to be placed at 76, we placed it was going to be at 68, now we're talking about placing it at Station 7. So I appreciate the analysis that our chief is taking. But you know, something, and I appreciate you being here, but what we do for one, we have to do for all. We've got a growing city everywhere. It's not happening in just one area. And there is going to need to be a fire station in the near future in the northern area out by Heritage Lakes, in that area. Right now, there's only a county station. I've gone on a call with the fire trucks, and we went on a call that was in the county. We were pulled out of the county. And so it's just as we grow, these are part of our growing pains, and we are trying to be ahead of it. We really have. We have these conversations. And so I made notes here, and I'm sorry for Marie that you had to wait. There is an agenda item, and I'll be happy to pull it tonight so we can look at it if you're going to be here, that there's going to be a public safety report. And our fire department, you can look on there, and he's going to show us how many calls they've had in the last month and how many calls were less than 5 minutes, at 5 minutes or over. And if you want, I'd be happy to pull that, and since you're here, and let you look at those numbers so you can see the real numbers and how we as a council look at those numbers every month, because response times are important to me. I can speak about myself, but I'm pretty sure our whole council, fire and police response times have been a priority. There's a couple people, Tanya, you're the business owner of that property, correct? And you want the city to put in your medium for you, right? So you're the business owner of that property, correct? Okay, we want that project. That's an important project for our city, and we talk about that, and we're following what, I don't know, we have surveys done all the time. We're following the surveys, and when you see a priority one, it's because it's a priority one. So maybe be patient with that too. But I do want to ask Nick if you can look at, or our police department, look at Lazy Creek Road and see about that driving too fast on that street. I think I've had people reach out to me in the past about that as well. But I made notes here, and I just appreciate all of you, and we're going to try to do what we can. We only have a certain amount of money, and we're trying to spread it around. Like I said, what we do for one, we try to do for all. We have residents all over our city, and just keep coming and sharing with us. Like, I wouldn't have known about Lazy Creek. I know you shared about Marietta Road too, and being able to see the lines. I know we haven't wanted to spend money and then have to redo it, waste it type of thing, but I don't know if there's something that can be done. So bringing that to our attention, that's really important for the safety. So I appreciate that, you bringing that forward. So please continue. And just, I guess, to my council members, I'd like to see that medic patrol number 2. We've already talked about looking for hiring, not waiting on the hiring, and getting ahead on that after the last meeting. I think that was a big step. And let's get that second medic patrol here as we grow and our numbers keep growing, and try to service our residents and get those response times down as best we can.
All right, thank you, council member. And before we jump to Councilman Leesmeyer, Mr. Fiddler, Councilmember Sobek brought up the temporary striping possibilities in those 2 locations that Mr. Torrealba brought up on Marietta Road, as well as the one that Ms. Hunt brought up on Bradley. So can you maybe address those quickly?
Yeah, in regards to the Marietta Road, I've already asked staff to review that project, because I had noticed some of their patches were settling, but so they can go out there and fix some of their temporary patching. But that's a good point. I'll have them review the striping as well to make sure that it's visible and trackable, that the drivers know where to go. For the Bradley Road, we do have that on our schedule. to do striping on that. We apologize for the delay, been short-staffed very recently, and we had to train staff on how to utilize the equipment. So they've been training on that, and they've done some smaller projects, so we're going to work towards that because it's almost a mile long, so it's a pretty long striping project, and we're going to start picking that off as weather starts to allow us.
Excellent. Thank you for the updates. Councilman Leesmeyer?
Yeah, I just wanted to add my thoughts on the Station 7 issue. So there's another kind of an unpopular thing going on that I'm hoping will appeal to everybody, and that is the overabundance of wasted calls. So you would all be staggered to hear how often the fire department responds to bad calls. And I'll give examples of, somebody lost their keys, something very random. So I'm actually going to ask the city manager if he can meet with our fire chief and talk to him about maybe breaking down those calls and analyzing those so that you all can see and help each other, frankly, help each other with the Sun City Civic Association, communicate those issues so that we can get a better handle on those calls. Because working together, I think we can do a lot more. We certainly all care about the public safety, but there's a degree of accountability that's being missed. So I'm hoping that the city manager can help me understand what those numbers look like, and maybe we can put out some publication to the SCCA and talk about things that might warrant a 911 call and things that don't warrant a 911 call. Because when somebody calls 911, they're going to show up. They do have a prioritization schedule that they work with the dispatch center. So if it's a slip and fall and maybe there's a higher rate of injury or a higher probability of death, frankly, they're gonna hustle. But if it's not a priority call, they're probably not even going to come with lights and sirens. They're just going to take their time and they're going to get there when they get there. So they do their own prioritization, but regardless of that prioritization, it diverts the services. So when they're diverting services on, let's say, a priority 4 call, and they're on the other side of Sun City, and all of a sudden a priority 1 comes up, now they've got to stop what they're doing, they got to hustle, and they got to wrap up and go the other direction. So understanding when is the right time to call 911 is very important in the situation as well.
Mr. Villa, did you want to?
Just want to, I know we're talking about the CIP, but wanted to point out that May 4th or 5th, at our next city council meeting, we will be presenting the budget, the proposed budget for next fiscal year. And in that budget, you'll see that we continue to allocate funding for a very high priority, council priority, which is public safety. And you'll see that we're proposing to increase the funding levels for the fire department, more specifically to add the second medic truck and put it into use starting in July. So I hope you guys can come to that meeting so you can see that maybe tonight wasn't the night to talk about that, but you will get an opportunity to weigh in, and the council will get an opportunity to make a decision on continuing to fund emergency services and public safety services for our residents. I didn't want to get too ahead of the game, but this will be discussed at the next city council meeting. Thank you.
All right, and then there was one other comment. Ms. Gable talked about the stockpile that's on the Kings Inn property, and she's right. I did tell her that I thought that was a temporary stockpile for a project, because that's what I was told, and that stockpile is still there. So I'm as disappointed, I guess, as she is, and maybe you can just give us an update of when we can see that go away.
We're working towards removing that pile now. Some of that will go to the Holland Road overcrossing. We do have some projects that are some street grading projects that we're applying it to now that weather is allowing us. But yeah, it apologize for the delay. We are working towards relocating that to the various sources. It wasn't supposed to be dropped there. It was a project that was a CIP that ended up taking it to that location without my awareness, and then we're working towards having it relocated.
All right, thank you for the update, and I think Ms. Gable might have some more to talk to. If you guys could get together after the meeting, that'd be great. All right, Councilman Leesmeyer?
Yeah, sorry, very briefly, specifically to the CIP, I remember, I think it was you that brought up the Bradley Road intersection at Craig in front of the high school, and that
Yes.
property, that road heading south.
Yes.
Needing some attention to the improvements. I didn't hear any discussion about that tonight. I didn't know if
So
that was.
that would be between Craig and Tupelo.
Tupelo, yes, thank you. So I know that the road staggers off center line. There's a big jog in the road. The main intersection is very rutted out, destroyed sand, et cetera. Do we want to talk more about that?
Do we have any updates, Mr. Fiddler, on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear where
It's over by Paloma Valley High School. It would be Bradley Road, and from the corner of Craig Avenue, which is the corner of the high school, heading south to Tupelo, and we talked about how sand kind of always flows down from Garbani's curve and
So
all of that.
That's actually one of the projects that we're working on with the grindings that we're utilizing to apply grindings to the Garbani Road in that area, and then we regraded that whole area, and staff have been taking some of the grindings that we've received and placing that there to help with some of the drainage issues. But we'll continue to work that area and grade it so we can keep the dirt from traveling.
Thank you, Nick. And, I don't know if there's Safe Routes to School grant or something we can use and apply for, because there are a lot of students that walk along there, and it's very narrow, and it's almost too narrow for two cars to pass, let alone a bicyclist or something like that, so.
Perfect. We're actually, there's a new call for projects for ATP, and we'll reach out to the high school district to get letter of support for that project. So yeah, that's one we'll add to our
Thank you, and thank you,
list.
Councilman Leesmeyer, for the reminder on that one.
So, and then just kind of finishing up on that, the intersection itself, it's off center, it's offset. So traffic coming north from Tupelo to the intersection, they're not coming in at the same center line intersection as Bradley. So the shifting in traffic, the cars kind of jogging around, there might be maybe some opportunity to widen the intersection there and kind of just dial that in with part of that grant, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at that and look at ways to build crosswalks and curb returns to make sure that it helps define the intersection a little better as well.
Great.
Excellent. Cool. Council members, do we have anything else on our CIP workshop tonight? All right, hearing none, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We are going to go ahead and adjourn. It is 4:55. And we will be having a regular council meeting at 6. Yep. Thank you.